All right, Lagos, let's keep talking on 99.3 Nigeria Info. I am Sandra Ezekwesili, and on the glass ceiling, we talk about all the different barriers that Nigerian women face in their quest for a better life, in their quest to just do the things that come naturally to Nigerian men. And today, our big question is, what unique challenges do women lawyers face? What unique challenges do women lawyers face? I started thinking about this because I've been covering the Nigerian Bar Association elections here on Hard Facts, and I've interviewed two of the candidates for president, and I'm still working on talking to the third candidate, and they are all men. And it occurred to me, in the entire history of the NBA, the Nigerian Bar Association, only one woman has been president. Now, when you realize how many women lawyers there are, clearly it's weird that only one has risen to the top. And so I found myself asking questions about what women lawyers face in their profession and the various hurdles that they may be facing. And on the interview, during the interview last week, I spoke to the two candidates about it. I asked them, what they thought about it, and they gave me their answers. I asked them about the state of legal profession for women. And Olumide Agbata said, well, yes, that things need to get better for women. And Dr. Ajibade SAN said, well, he thinks that women have made a lot of progress in the last, since the very first woman who was president in 1992, right? Both these people, eminent lawyers, both of them SANs, and both of them also men. And we say you can't, cut somebody's hair in their absence, Abby. So you cannot talk about the state of women lawyers without hearing from women lawyers. And that's why today on the show, I've brought them to join us on the glass ceiling. My first guest is Lucy Williams. Lucy Williams is a student at a law school here in Nigeria. Lucy, thank you so much for joining us on the glass ceiling.
Thank you for having me.
And my second guest is a legal practitioner. Her name is Fumilayo. Fumilayo, welcome to the glass ceiling.
Thank you, Sandra.
And then I have my third guest returning. She's always here every time we have to talk about a legal matter. Nike Arobonlo, thank you so much for joining us on the glass ceiling.
Thank you, Sandra, for having me.
Yes. Now, I want to hear from you as well, Lagos. If you are a lawyer, whether you are female, whether you are male, give me a call. Tell me what you think the conditions for women in your profession is. What the conditions are like for the women in your profession. And no matter who you are, call in and ask these women lawyers about what they face and how they succeed in spite of the things that they face. Now, I'm going to start at the very top and work my way down. Nika, the NBA presidency, only one woman has been elected NBA president ever. Why are women so underrepresented at the top of the professional body?
I think that the challenges that women lawyers face are, as like the NBA political sphere, is not different from the challenges that women face in the Nigerian political sphere. I think it's just a reflection of our society.
What does that mean?
I don't think, I don't think that the challenges are unique to just the NBA. Well, I will start, like you said, like this year now, for example, now all our candidates are men. Let's start with that. Mm-hmm. Now we have had only one woman represent us. Now we have had a few women run and lose. Like we have this, this very brilliant Mrs. Sandra Ezekwesili, like she's the most recent memory that I have, like a very brilliant campaign, but she did not win. Now, as like we all know, politics is a game of numbers, and then the NBA politics is not any different. And then you find that even amongst women, their fellow women do not want to support their bid. for the presidency. You as like like in my opinion, I don't believe it has anything to do with the capability of the women, or has anything to do with like women being out there, because there are quite a lot of female lawyers that are very, very active, and like very brilliant. But I don't think it's a general representation of the society that we live in, where more trust is placed on men to lead.
I see. Fumilayo Dude, is this an opinion that you share? Do you think that this is why women are so underrepresented at the top of your professional body, or you think there's some other thing that we're not talking about?
So I agree with Nika that it's a picture of the society at large, what it is. And really it's a game of numbers. When you look at the history of maybe not just the NBA, but most professional organizations, permit me to divide it into three classes.
Yes,
you have the people that are just starting out. Let's, for lack of a better word, let's use those in middle management and those that are at the top of their careers. Right now, leadership falls to those that are at the top of their careers.
That's right.
And when you look at the history of women in the workplace in Nigeria, including in the legal profession, there were so many reasons and so many societal factors responsible, but we have fewer women at the top of their legal careers at the moment. It's a game of numbers. If you have 300 balls in a bowl, 150 red, 150 blue, and you're going to pick from them, there's better chance that you will pick from both colors, as opposed to when you have 250 red balls and just 50 blue balls. Women have had to deal with, especially in the legal profession, and professions that are as tedious and as time-consuming to succeed at as the legal profession. Women in the past have had to deal with such societal constructs as being the primary homemaker, having unequal remuneration, such that in the past, it is getting better now, but in the past, you had a lot of women enter into the profession, but exit from associate to senior associate positions due to pressure, societal pressure, being unable to manage both home and work-life balance, and so many other factors, and without adequate policies or adequate things put in place, adequate structures put in place to cater for them. So you have lesser women at senior management positions right now than you have in middle management and those just starting out. And therefore, if you look at the game of numbers, we still have a lot more men in senior leadership positions than the others.
Than we have women.
I do agree, yes, but I do agree that for a lot of reasons, a myriad of reasons, it is getting better.
It is getting better, you do agree?
Oh, yes, it is getting better. When you look at my generation and Nika's generation, you have a lot more women staying in the profession. You have a lot more women in senior associates, middle class levels. We had a lot more women heading partnerships in law firms than we had 5-10 years ago. It's still not, there's still not an equal representation. I mean, the number of female SANs are still less than 5% out of the total numbers. So it's not yet, we haven't gotten there yet, but it is a lot better than it was a few years back.
I'm going to come back to that point you raised about SANs. But Nika, if we want to see more women in leadership positions in the NBA, right, including the presidency, what needs to happen? What do women lawyers need to do? What changes do they need to make to the NBA?
I believe a more robust and active participation. And by active participation, I don't just mean I'm looking for the phrase that will be radio appropriate. I don't just mean pandering to, to the men folk. I mean, actually, actually participating, like in terms of registering to vote, paying paying your dues on time so that you can vote. Because, like we all know, in the NBA, if you don't pay your dues before March 31st, you cannot vote. Even if you pay April 1st of the same year, because you not pay early, you are not eligible to vote. So first of all, even registering, first of all, register to vote, be active, be present. And when you are present, do not be intimidated, because you actually find across board, even sometimes on panels where there are male and female speakers, you find that the female speakers tend to, downplay their accomplishments. It's almost seen as a thing of pride to not put yourself out there, or
to not blow your trumpet.
Tell the world what you have, tell us what you have done, basically. Most women, a lot of women feel more comfortable, or let's say, they act like it is more convenient for them to be seen under the umbrella of a male colleague. It's almost as if sometimes your participation or your being visible, is a reflection of the benevolence of some man that has, has brought you to the fore. For a lot of people, a lot of times. So I feel that for there to be adequate representation of female lawyers in the NBA, and I believe that right now that I agree with Dr. Ajibade, and I agree with the speaker that that there is actually significant progress for women compared to what we had before, because now more women are more active. Like, most of us are now conscious that our votes matter and our votes count.
So that's it. I want to hear what Lucy Williams thinks. I know Lucy Williams is still in law school, but you have an opinion on this, I'm sure, Lucy, and I want to hear it. What say you? What do you think is responsible for the underrepresentation, first of all? And what do you think needs to happen so that more women stay in the game?
Okay, so I think I'll start from the language when it comes to law. When you think about law, you think about men. Because when they address us in law school, they address us as gentlemen in skirts. They're not addressed as women. You understand? So we just make the career a man's career. So when you look at law from the onset, it's presented as a career for men. So with that kind of language and with that kind of foundation, it would carry on into the politics and the leadership of the Nigerian Bar Association. So that's one of the reasons, that's one of the primary reasons I think why women are underrepresented, because you're already told that the profession is for men and it's to be run by men. So when the profession is for men, it's definitely going to be run by men. And I also think that when it comes to career for women lawyers in Nigeria, when you look at private practice, women are discriminated against. So it's difficult for you to climb the ladder, because when you're getting employed, there's a factor of pregnancy, of you being a family woman, of you ending up having children, of you taking time off to have children. So when all these factors come into play, there's a lower chance for women to go up on the ladder of the career. You understand?
Okay.
So the same thing applies in the politics. It's just a reflection of, like you said, of the Nigerian society as a whole. If you look at politics in Nigeria, how many female governors do we have? How many female local government chairman, how many female, we've never had a female president. So when you think about it, the same people who vote in the Nigerian Bar Association are the same people who come out to vote in the election. So it's just a reflection of their natural inhibitions and what they believe is the status quo.
I see. Fumilayo,
Okay,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I also think for things to change, there's also, we have to change the mindset as well as for things to change, we have to change mindset. Because even in law school, right, I came across some women who thought that women should not lead. So there's that, right? So if a woman is coming out to run for NBA president, there are still women amongst us who believe that a woman should not be president.
Because that's another point I was going to raise. I mean, even if we get more women to start participating, how it's not just women that have to vote, men also have to vote for the women.
Exactly. Exactly. So there are people who believe that women should not lead. So there's that obstacle because being active is not the only way to go. Because you can be active and still get to the point where you need votes, and there are people who really deeply believe that you should not lead because you're a woman.
So what do we do about that? I mean, can you change a belief system?
I would say that actually.
Okay, Nika.
Okay, so like both speakers have said. For example, now we have some law firms in Nigeria that do not like to hire women. Like if you go to some websites of some law firms, you will see 12 men, 1 woman, and that woman is just, like gender token. Sometimes in that establishment.
The irony of a law firm discriminating. It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
You actually have law firms where you go and they tell you, you sound good, but we want somebody that will be able to work for long hours. And then there is a belief that being a woman, you are either incapable by your sex, and worse, if you're a married woman, that because you're married, you will not be allowed to, and I use the word allowed, understanding everything that word entails and means, that you'll not be allowed to because your husband might not let you. Now, even sometimes, without even knowing the kind of man that you have married or the kind of partner that you have, that assumption or presumption is made on his behalf. And then they are doing him a favor or doing themselves a favor, because there's no one like a situation where they'll have to call you for work and say, oh, sorry, my child is not well. Or, like basically, like it's just like, as like they both said, it's a reflection of of our society. Like the legal sphere is not any different. It's not any different. So so like in most cases, you have a scenario where most of the choice position, because of of the initial trajectory and how swift their career has moved, you see that generally, and this is just generally now, there are some beautiful exceptions to this general principle. But you see where a man and a woman called to bar on the same day with equal capabilities, like equal ways, like there's nothing to differentiate them but their genitalia. But the man is way ahead, because not only has he been helped by by the society, I would say, but there's also there's also the presumption of competence in his favor. Now, for a woman, you have to prove yourself over and over and over again just to be seen. But for a man, that competence is presumed in your favor. So this is also, as like
part of the problem.
Yes, it is part of our problem. And like she said, gentleman in care.
Let me come to Fumi for a bit. Fumi talked about SANS earlier on, and yes, there does seem to be far more men SANS than women SANS. Is it SANS or SAN? Is it SAN or SANS? What's the right way to say that?
It is SAN.
Okay, so we have far more SANs than men SANs than women SANs. This disparity, Is it a reflection of the actual percentage of lawyers, or is it a situation where women are again underrepresented?
Okay, so I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
Now, again, we have established that what happens in the legal profession is a reflection of what happens in society generally.
Mm-hmm.
The title of Senior Advocate of Nigeria is mostly given to those in active litigation practice.
Okay.
You have some reserved for academia. Now, litigation practice is one of the most tedious areas of law. It has a tradition of long working hours.
Okay.
It has a lot of efforts and stress being put into it.
Okay.
Just as with leadership positions in the professional bodies, with senior advocates, I believe it takes more than just brilliance to get into these things. And I'm sure we all know that with even respect to politics in Nigeria. I doubt there's any male lawyer you meet that will deny the absolute brilliance of female lawyers. What female lawyers have not learned to do well is to penetrate what I would call the informal gentleman's club. Whether we like it or not, that exists. To run for an office like the NBA president, it takes more than you just being a brilliant person. There has to be clout. There has to be some sort of social capital that takes years to build, that takes a lot of effort to build. Make a mention Mrs. Funke Adekoya, which is one of the people I believe could have made that office because she has over the years built not just a brilliant practice, but that clout, that social capital that it takes. Now, there are a lot of fantastic female lawyers, even in top leadership positions. Mrs. Dorothy Uford, Mrs. Mia Essen, like you have so many of them. But it takes almost superhuman powers to even get to where they are. That now ask them to, it is not impossible, I'm sure, but to now take the extra effort to build the clout and the social capital that it takes to run for office. Like there's so much. I mean, Nika spoke about the mindset of married women, but the truth of the matter is, half of the employers that do this, while not making excuses for them, have a situation of experience.
Okay.
In fact, one of the theories I have about our generation getting better in respect of staying in the profession longer than previous generations used to is the fact that in more recent times, women are getting married a lot later than they used to, and therefore have established some form of foundation, both financially and in respect of their careers, to be able to make better decisions and create better support systems for them with respect to family building while they still pursue their careers. You cannot deny the influence that this kind of thing plays on a woman's career. And then women need to learn to also make that effort. It's not just about brilliance, and that's the truth.
Now, how do you build the social capital? Because you made an intriguing point about you have to be able to have social capital. You have to be able to have some pull. How do you build that as a female lawyer? Like, because you talked about the informal sector of the NBA that is mostly a gentleman's club that you need to penetrate. How do you penetrate that?
So we have a lot of, for instance, we've all been calling it some women's name. We have a lot of events, sponsorship of events, being a very notable figure in respect of speaking to issues. And then we cannot deny the financial bit of it, which is another major issue. Women learning to own their financial stability. I mean, it will take us a while. Like I said, we have made quite a bit of progress, but it will still take us a while. They have top women in high-profile areas of law. I mean, arbitration, maritime, admiralty, telecommunications, but we need more women in those high-profile areas.
Lucy, let me hear your thoughts.
I think what she said was right about the boys' club and how law has been a boys' club. I believe that with mentorship, women can come to get to that position, get to the top positions. Because yes, we have women in these top positions. It's more like tokenism, where out of 20 there's one woman, out of 30 there are 2 women. Mm-hmm. I believe that if there's a situation where we have mentorship too. These women at these top positions, having mentoring programs, the way, like she said there's a gentleman's club. For you to get this position, you have to penetrate the gentleman's club. Why don't we create our own club where you don't have to penetrate this club? We use our own power and get to these positions. Because having to penetrate this club is also having to maintain the status quo that, it's still a gentleman's club. Why shouldn't we as human beings, men and women, are involved in this career? It doesn't have to be one man's club or one woman's club.
I see. Nika, what do you think about that? Do you think that that's realistic?
Well,
Is it a realistic goal?
Well, it's a long-term goal, obviously. Like it's as that will have to be like a long-term goal. To have like another club that is not a gentleman's club. And like the number as said, the NBA elections is fine. Politics at the heart of it is a game of numbers. But the social capital, oh my God, because you need a very, very vibrant campaign. I think in my 9 years as a lawyer, this is the first NBA campaign that I have seen that is this vibrant, because they have different platforms. There's a lot at stake, basically. So your brilliance is good and fine, but your brilliance will only take you so far, because all the lawyers are deemed, are presumed brilliant. So how to get the social capital once again, I would say it again, showing up cannot be underestimated. Just showing up, first of all, showing up at your best, showing up ready to learn, showing up ready to help cannot be overestimated. That's number one. Number two, networking. Networking is, I don't think this applies to just the legal profession. I think this, it applies
to all professions.
Because you need to be well-liked. You need to be well-liked by a lot of people that will be willing to contribute to your campaign, because the campaign is not free and is not cheap.
It kind of sounds like we're talking about running for any office, really. So from what we've said, the same rules apply for any office, any political office.
The exact same political principle. We've read "Love Does Not Win Elections" by Aisha Oshori. It is a direct reflection of the Nigerian society, which mirrors itself in the legal profession.
All right.
So I agree, I agree that yes,
we can't maintain the status quo.
Yes.
Okay.
We cannot maintain the status quo as it is, but then it is getting way better. There are a lot of younger lawyers that are way active, even married women that are way active. Most people have moved past the idea that that if you're married, you cannot make time for something like this that matters, because just being there, like just being visible, like apart from it being like a very, very powerful position, it's also like it opens a lot of doors for you just by being there. So women, in my opinion, the best way to do it is to show up ready.
Okay.
Or anything, show up with an open mind.
Okay.
Show up with an open mind. Don't come there with your own preconceived notions of anything, and be willing to learn. By willing to learn, I mean be ready to humble yourself to learn it. Be ready for it.
I'm curious about
something that we cannot get to, but it will take work, and then the work of many people, not just one person, a lot of women working at the same time and working together.
Okay, I'm going to ask Lucy what she thinks about that when we come back from a commercial break. If you just joined the show, hello to you. Good evening. You're listening to Sandra Ezekwesili on 99.3 Nigeria Info, and we're talking about the NBA elections, upcoming NBA elections. I've already mentioned that while I was interviewing the people who would run for president, none of them were women, and that made me curious, and I decided to find out if there were unique challenges that women lawyers in the NBA face. And to do that, I have 3 female lawyers on the show with me. Well, one of them is in law school. Lucy Williams is in law school. Nika Romgolo is a lawyer, and Fumilayo Odude is also a lawyer. And 3 of them have essentially agreed that nothing that happens in the NBA is unique to the NBA. So I'm guessing that you who's listening can relate to a lot of the points that they've made on the show today in your own field, in your own profession. There are things you think are very relatable, and therefore you can share with us via our phone numbers. We're streaming this conversation on Facebook and YouTube, Nigeria Info FM. You can call us on 0700-993-993. Are you hearing any similarities between what the women who have spoken on the show as pertaining the legal profession and in your own profession? If you also have questions for the guests, you can call in and ask those questions. You're listening to Hard Facts. Don't go away.
This is the Glass Ceiling on Hard Facts. This is the Glass Ceiling on Hard Facts.
We're back on it on 99.3 Nigeria Info. What unique challenges do women lawyers face? I'm Sandra Ezekwesili. It's 24 minutes to 5. I've got guests on the show who are saying so much. My first guest is a student in law school, Lucy Williams. I also have Nika Rongolo on the show with me. She's a lawyer. Fumilayo Odude is also on the show. She's a lawyer. Before the break, Nika made some very interesting points that I'm curious what Lucy thinks. Lucy, hello.
Hi, hello.
Yes, tell me what you think.
Nika has made some really good points about working together, all of us as women working together, which I agree with. So for us, it's not just one person's work, you understand? It's not just you fighting for yourself. I believe that as a woman, if you get to the top of any organization, you have to think that it's not just for you. It's for you and it's for all the women behind you and all the women coming after you. So it's a thing where we all have to work together and all have to understand that men have had an advantage from being born men, from being born in a society that sees them as superior. They've had an advantage, and we have to create an advantage for ourselves. So it's by us working together that we can see change in the Nigerian bar and also in Nigeria as a country.
Are there politics and leadership structures in law school and at undergraduate level where women are currently participating, Lucy?
So I can't really say for undergraduate level because I didn't study law in Nigeria, but in the law school, from my experience, what I've noticed is when it comes to classwork, right? So I'm speaking from my year and from speaking to other friends who were speaking from law school. There was men that were made classwork, while women were assistants. There's no written down rule. It was more of like an unspoken rule. I remember a friend was trying to run for SRC chairperson, and she was told by some people from her university that she couldn't run because there are places where men go to and women would not be allowed to go to. I didn't understand what that meant, but it's unspoken. It's a thing where, like I said, a boys' club where you're told you're gentlemen in skirts. When in the court of law there is no woman, they're all men. You understand? So it's an unspoken rule, but it's there. Men are given an advantage when it comes to leadership positions in law school.
Interesting. Fumi, last year at the NBA conference, there was a conversation about adding sexual harassment to the list of behaviors banned by the rules for professional conduct. How come the legal profession still doesn't have express rules against sexual harassment? Yes, Fumi.
Okay, Nika.
No, that's what Fumi.
So, that is extremely sad. And what you typically hear is it falls under the general misconduct. But seeing that this is an issue that the entire society has to deal with right now, one would have expected that the NBA would be the front liner in not just dealing with the issues in respect of our profession, but in creating even guidelines for the labor market and for companies. So it is very disappointing. And should I say, as I'm part of the profession, should I say that it is quite shameful that it's not something that has been brought to the forefront now up until now. And I'm hoping that it's something that will be tackled very, very quickly, because sexual harassment should not just deal with the very overt acts. There are a lot of subtle covert acts that make women uncomfortable in the workplace. And so if we, as we being the learned people, who should be the guiding light, have not provided light for ourselves, it is quite shameful.
Nike, how prevalent is sexual harassment for women lawyers? Could you give us some typical scenarios about how it plays out, Nike?
Okay, let me give you a very, very common example.
This is daytime radio, so give it to me in like PG language. Thank you.
Very, very PG.
PG.
Very, very PG.
Thank you.
So you have a matter. Let's say you're in Lagos and you have a matter in Abuja, and you're going to Lagos with your boss for a matter. So, so obviously it's on the office, like expense. It cannot be from your own purse, since it's an official matter. So your boss, you just give you your, your ticket. You get on the plane. You get to Abuja with your boss. You you're following your boss, and then you get to the hotel and you have booked for just one room.
What?
For just one room. And then Now there's only one room, you know, and it's like, oh, I did not realize that. Don't worry, it's another room. Just bring your things up, just bring your things up. First of all, even the very act of taking your things up feels very uncomfortable. It should not even happen, first of all. But then that happens. And then you get into the room, and then, the rest is very common knowledge to a lot of people. Now, there are also instances where, for example, for like things like, let me say, the MBA conference, you're sponsored to go, you get there. So, as like, it mostly seems as like takes these forms, or even just working in the office, your boss starts hitting on you. It gets very uncomfortable because in most situations, most people honestly do not know how to react.
Yeah, because this person has power over you.
Extreme. Like, the power dynamics is too, like, the power gap is too wide, for you to, like, react how you would ordinarily react if you and the person are on the same, power strata. That's number one. Now, number two is sometimes because it's sexual harassment, it's mostly covered.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something that you can actually hold on to. Like, before it proceeds to sexual assault, it's mostly sexual harassment.
Yeah.
So most times, even when you even report, the person that you might have to report to is a friend of your guy. They will just drink one beer and say, it just dies down. Like, more often than not, the person reporting is not even believed. Because just like we said, a reflection of the general society, you start to get things like, why did you climb upstairs with him? Why you said, why
you carry your load? Why didn't you insist?
Like, there are a lot of instances. For example, you can be traveling for like a matter with your boss. You guys are in a car, you're sleeping. Before you know, you are feeling somebody's hand on your lap. Hey, creepy things like that. And then you don't know, like, you do know how to, like, react. But sometimes shock immobilizes.
Yeah.
So, like, there are a lot of instances, but these are the most common ones that a lot of women can relate to because this is very, very prevalent. Like, it's so common, it's shocking. Like, see, like, if you gather 20 female lawyers now, one there will have a similar story. And I'm not saying one to err on the side of, like, let's not make it seem like I'm, like I'm quoting wrong statistics, but it's that prevalent. When female lawyers that are friends gather, the things that you hear are very, very shocking. Sometimes it's so shocking that some of them don't even know that they are being sexually harassed.
And these are lawyers. Lawyers are the ones who have the power to tackle something like sexual harassment. And you are being sexually harassed.
First and foremost, lawyers are human beings, are people before they read the law. First and foremost.
Let me come to Lucy. Let me come to Lucy. Lucy, you're in law school, and you did your LLB, and I'm glad you did your LLB outside of Nigeria, right? Are there some specific what's it called now? Ways that it's different, the culture around sexual harassment is different, because we have sex for grades that is an endemic problem in Nigerian education, right? How prevalent is it in law programs in our university and at law school? Do you have women law students who are getting the same pressure and harassment and extortion as their counterparts in other courses?
So in law school, right, I would say that it's very covert in the sense that it's law school. Law school has a lot of rules. You can't protest. You can't protest in law school. You could be having issues with lecturers. You can't protest because if you do, you could get expelled. So
law
it's very
school,
covert in the sense that
in law school you can't protest.
You can't protest, no.
The irony. Go ahead.
There's no freedom of speech, basically.
Go ahead.
So, we hear rumors of lecturers dating students. They call it dating, but I don't believe a lecturer can date a student because there's an unequal power dynamic there. You understand? So you hear about it, but it's not in your face because, like I said, law school there is no freedom of speech, so it's correct. It's done in a way where there is plausible deniability. You understand? You could say it, and the lecturer could say, "I've never done this." You know, and everybody would believe the lecturer. You understand? But it's there, but it's always shrouded in mystery and, you know,
it's very coded
behind the cloak. Yeah, it's very coded.
Fumi, you went to did you go to university here? Did you get your LLB here in Nigeria?
Yes, I did.
Okay, tell me about the culture. Tell me, is there the same pressure and the same harassment as other courses in
The biggest culture is always the culture of silence. And that is why it's breaking up a bit these days. We have more people emboldened to report and tell their stories. But the biggest culture is the culture of silence. That's why we would never get an accurate statistics as to how prevalent sexual harassment or sexual assault is. And that is one of the reasons why we must get women in position of leadership. Because I believe they would be more passionate about these issues. We can speak all we want. We can analyze and debate all we want. What will correct some of these anomalies are structures put in place. It is sad that if anything happens to a young lawyer today, she doesn't know where to report. Mika made a point about the person she's going to report to likely being the friend of her boss. But let's even start with a girl is a copper being posted to a law firm, or she's worked in a law firm for a few years or a few months, and something happens one night. Off the top of anybody's head within the profession, you don't even know the appropriate reporting channel. Where do you go to?
Is there an appropriate reporting channel?
Everybody knows about the legal practitioners disciplinary committee.
Okay.
But and about you writing a petition and what have you. But I think that in respect of sexual harassment, the body should be created. It should be created in such a way that victims have confidence in the confidentiality and in the transparency, as confidential as it should be, the transparency of the process that she will go through with respect to her complaint or her report, the way that it will be handled, the composition of the member of any panel that will speak to hear. But until that is put in place, you will always have a situation where those that are more inclined to keep their jobs, those that are more inclined to avoid being tagged with the phrase of victim will keep quiet about it. So it is about the appropriate structures. That's the only way there can be any preventive measures. The appropriate structures being put in place, adequate policies being set down. I'm looking forward to a time where the NBA makes it mandatory for every firm, and then we can extend it to every corporate organization, having a mandatory sexual harassment policy, having mandatory sexual harassment training, annually, biannually, whichever way you want to do it. It is. We cannot ignore the issue anymore, and therefore we must begin to take structural steps, not just. We need to start dealing with it case by case. As much as we are dealing with issues case by case, we need to also put in inbuilt systems, inbuilt structures that prevent the reoccurrence of it. If a corporate organization has repeated sexual harassment training, the likelihood of perpetrators thinking twice when they want to do the act is there. So I'm more about structures being put in place and more about policies being put in place to ensure that the prevalence of it is reduced. And I believe that until we begin to get women in leadership, there are likely to be a bit more passionate about these issues because it affects them directly.
Now, before we go, because we're out of time, I'm going to get answers to this question from you and Nike. Fumi, in spite of these hurdles and these obstacles, both you and Nike are continuing to rise up the ranks as lawyers. What factors have helped you? What strategies do women lawyers need to adopt to protect their careers and rise up in spite of the glass ceiling?
Okay, so two things I would say have helped me. I've had marvelous examples in front of me. Like I said, there are a lot of amazing women doing amazing things out there. And even for those that I do not know personally, just seeing them there, seeing what they do, inspires you to also rise towards that. The second thing is my own circle. So the people in my age bracket, the people that we're called to back together, it's like a support structure, so to speak. We keep rising, we keep encouraging each other, we keep helping each other out, we keep pushing. Law is a profession that you never stop investing in. I mean, you think that you've been called to the bar and that is it. No. You're forever investing, you're forever writing professional exams, you're forever trying to push. And my personal experience has also been that part of those colleagues, surprisingly, have been men. I have a lot of male colleagues who are forever saying how amazed they are at what I'm doing, are forever encouraging. And so I think nobody is an island. You need that support structure. Discouraging moments will come. Times will come when you want to give up.
All right.
But when you have the right support structure, it helps.
It helps. Nikki, I have just 1 minute left. Tell me, what are the things that have helped you? What strategies do women lawyers need to adopt?
I think that by being a woman lawyer, first of all, you have to be excellent in it, as like in what you do. Be excellent at your job and show up. Now, just like Sumi has said, I have had excellent examples of, and then I have also been the recipient of a lot of kindness from my seniors, both male and female. Like, when some people say that, the women don't help each other, that has not been my experience. Like, I have been marvelously helped, marvelously encouraged by a lot of excellent examples. For example, with STL, like we have like a lot of people are there to assist you. Most times, all you need to do is just to reach out, ask for help.
Okay.
Ask, and you shall receive.
Okay. All right. Ask and you shall receive. Fumi, Nike, Lucy, you have been great. Thank you so much for giving to me your time. I asked and I received your time. And all the best with your careers. I can't wait to touch base again and see where you are at. I'm hoping one of you runs for president. Let's talk about the NDDC next. I'm Sandra Ezekwesili.
Hard facts